A few years ago, I decided to spend a weekend exploring the rugged coast of Maine. I had heard tales of an old, abandoned lighthouse perched on a cliff, miles away from the nearest town. Locals said it was haunted, but I was curious and eager for adventure, so I decided to visit it alone. I set off early in the morning, navigating the narrow, winding paths that led to the lighthouse. The weather was overcast, and a thick fog rolled in, making the journey even more eerie. By the time I reached the lighthouse, the sky was a dull gray, and the air was heavy with the smell of salt and decay. The lighthouse was a towering, decrepit structure, its paint peeling and windows broken. As I approached, I felt a chill run down my spine. Despite the stories, I felt drawn to it, compelled to explore its dark, forgotten corners. Inside, the air was damp and musty. The floorboards creaked under my weight, and I could hear the distant sound of waves crashing against the rocks below. I climbed the spiral staircase, each step echoing ominously in the confined space. As I ascended, I noticed strange markings on the walls, symbols and words carved into the wood, their meaning lost to time. Reaching the top, I entered the lantern room. The glass was cracked, and the old, rusted mechanism that once powered the light lay in ruins. I gazed out over the foggy sea, feeling a strange sense of unease. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and I heard a low, guttural whisper behind me. I turned to see a figure standing in the doorway, a man, dressed in old-fashioned lighthouse keeper's clothes, his face twisted in a mask of rage. His eyes burned with an unnatural fire, and he pointed an accusing finger at me. "You don't belong here," he hissed, his voice echoing in the confined space. "You have to leave." Frozen with fear, I stumbled back, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The ghostly figure advanced, and I felt an invisible force pushing me toward the edge of the room, closer to the broken windows and the sheer drop beyond. I realized with horror that the ghost intended to kill me, to send me plunging to my death on the rocks below. Summoning all my courage, I turned and bolted down the staircase, the ghost's angry cries following me. The air grew colder, and I could feel his presence right behind me, a malevolent force urging me to trip, to fall. I reached the bottom and burst out of the lighthouse, gasping for breath. The fog had lifted slightly, and I could see the path leading back to safety. I didn't look back, running as fast as I could until I was far from that cursed place. When I finally reached my car, I collapsed, my heart pounding and my mind racing. I had narrowly escaped with my life, and the memory of that ghostly lighthouse keeper haunted me for weeks. I later learned that the lighthouse had a tragic history. The last keeper had gone mad after losing his family in a storm and had thrown himself from the lantern room. His spirit, filled with rage and sorrow, was said to haunt the lighthouse, driving away anyone who dared to enter. To this day, I avoid the coast of Maine. The memory of that ghostly encounter still chills me, and I know that some places are better left undisturbed.